So welcome back to the Thrive S podcast. Today I'm excited to introduce our guest Martino Cartier. Thank you for coming on so much. It's a great pleasure. Just quickly, introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, all of that.
Sure. So my name is Martino Cartier. I founded Martino Cartier Salon in 1998. I started Wigs Wishes, a nonprofit that helps women and children battling cancer. We're now celebrating our 15th year.
Wow, that's
Very
great.
nice.
Yeah.
So, there's so much to cover with you. You have such
Yeah.
a public, like you go public with everything. Like, I want to talk and like dive in first to your background and your story because I know I'd listened to it once before. I was honored to listen to it, and I just want to hear about it again. So, like, we know you're adopted, right? So we could
Yes.
start from there and like maybe slowly work up. So, like, how was it growing up, knowing you were adopted and
Got
going
it.
through that experience?
I mean, that's such a loaded question. It took a lot for me to wind up in Washington Township, New Jersey. My mother was pregnant in Egypt and not married. So to avoid shaming the family and who knows what else could happen, they brought her to America. And I was born in Jersey City and then was sent to an orphanage, basically. So I was adopted by an American family when I was 6 months old, and they were Irish. So clearly I don't look Irish. So when I was like four, my mom, who adopted me, decided that it was time to try to explain to me that, I was special, I was chosen, these kind of terms. So she used like Moses as an example,
Hmm.
floating down the Nile, gave him away to it for a better home, and she would
Yeah.
draw maps of Egypt, whatever. And then she told me when I was older, if I ever wanted to find my birth family, she would help me, like when I turned 18. So then 1986 happened, and I was 11 years old. My family, after they adopted me when I was five, moved to the Florida Keys. So all my friends were senior citizens. And my mom bought this movie called An American Tale. It was a cartoon VHS, and she had no clue what it was about, but she bought it. And it was about a little mouse who lost his family named Fightful. And the whole movie's about this mouse trying to find his family. And there's a very famous song that's played throughout it called Somewhere Out There by James Ingram. So now I'm 11 years old watching this mouse cry because he can't find his family, and it totally screwed me up
Hmm.
mentally. And I remember started crying, and my mom's like, "It's okay. We're going to help you find your birth family when you're 18." And we knew nothing. We only knew her name was Miriam. We knew that she named me baby boy Ayad. We knew nothing about anything other than that she went back to Egypt. So it never left me that day when in 1986. And then also to make matters worse, my father, my adopted father, he was very abusive,
Wow.
more so mentally. Once in a while, he would beat the crap out of me, but it was more mentally. He was just it was terrible. So you're adopted, you're given away, you don't know if your family's looking for you. You have a father who adopted you, tells you you're stupid, you're never gonna make it. Once in a while, beats the crap out of you. It was crazy. So I guess when I was 13, my mother had enough, and she told my father that she's either getting a divorce or we're moving back to New Jersey with her family. So we moved back to New Jersey, and I just never fit in. I had this last name that was Irish. That would be like calling you like, Shaquaa Jackson. It doesn't fit the mold. You know what I mean? Calling me McGuire doesn't fit the mold. So it just led to like bullying in school. And then my father lost the business that my grandfather had given him. It was just a complete just joke. And so I get to high school and I became really close with my guidance counselor. So I had shared with her, my story, whatever, and that I really wanted to find my birth family. So she said, when you turn 18, I'm going to get an excused absence and I'm going to drive you to Jersey City to the Bureau of Vital Statistics to get your records. Because I think once you get your records, you're going to be good.
Hmm.
So that day came and we went down JFK Boulevard. We went to the vital statistics, and the guy who was there was the same signature on my birth certificate, Fred Myers. I couldn't believe it. And so my guidance counselor, we didn't lie, but we didn't tell the truth. We just said that I needed my birth records, and we didn't tell him I was adopted, whatever. So he goes and gets this old book. It wasn't even like microfiche or anything. It was like a big old encyclopedia on Red Bull. And he finally finds my record and he goes, "You didn't tell us that he was adopted. Those records are sealed." And he shut the book, and that was it. There was
Wow.
no Freedom of Information Act or anything. So it was like one of the worst days of my life. We're driving home. She feels horrible. I'm a wreck. I got home and I was just like, I'm not doing this anymore. And I took my mother's car into the woods, put a hose in the muffler, put the other end in the window, passed out. Somebody found the car, broke the glass. I woke up in the hospital. This kind of crap went on for a really long time. And then I had my first salon right up the street from here. And a woman came in to get her hair cut. And I never saw her again. So I just thought she didn't like her hair. And then, like 6 months later, she came back and she looked terrible. And I said, "What's the matter? What happened?" And she told me that her son was diagnosed with a terminal brain tumor, and she was a single mom, and she just wanted to find a way that she could take off of work. She was a secretary at the high school up the street, and I had no employees. It was just me, and there was no social media at the time. So I just said, "Listen, I'm gonna put out flyers and cut hair on a weekend and try to raise money for you so that you could stay home." So we did that, or I did that, and I told everybody the checks would be made payable to Heidi Millward, so everybody knew where the money was going. In 2 days, we raised, my goal was 5 grand. We raised like $22,000, which I couldn't believe, which was enough to pay her mortgage for 2 years. And he
Wow.
lived for 2 years and he died. And we're still friends to this day. And that was an awakening for me. I never felt so good about myself ever from that day. And things started to shift. And I realized, what defined me wasn't being adopted. Um, growing up poor or being bullied wasn't what defined me. And I realized at that moment it was what I did with my time, my talent, and my treasure was pretty much what defined me. So that brings us to like 2005. And I had finally just let go. Like it wasn't meant to be. I wasn't going to find my birth family and whatever. And I have this bizarre dream. I was 30 years old. Was I 30? Yeah, I was 30 years old. And I have this dream that I'm in Egypt and I see this woman and I just know she's my mother in my dream. And I go up to her and I said, "Is your name Miriam?" And she said, "Who are you?" And I said, "Were you in America in 1975?" And she said, "Who are you?" And I said, "Baby boy Ayad," because that's literally what my birth certificate said, like Madonna, Prince, Ayad. There's one name. And she started to cry and she said, "I named you Ayad because it's my last name." And I woke up and I was in like a
Wow.
pool of sweat. I was so verklempt. It was brutal. I went to work that day. It was a Friday and I canceled all my clients and I just went on and I started searching Ayad Miriam, Miriam Ayad. And I found an Miriam Ayad that lived in Jersey City years ago, but there was nothing else I could find on her. So throughout the years, I had called the adoption registry department in Trenton, New Jersey. So the registry department, if a biological child and a biological parent agree that they want to meet each other, it breaks the seal. But both people have to do it. So I had called there over the years many times, and I always got some idiot state worker who didn't care and never took the time of day.
Yeah.
Well, this one time when the day I had the dream, I called and I got this woman by the name of Dolores Helb. And I flat out lied to her. I told her I lost my adoption records. I needed a copy. I gave her my social. She put me on hold. She came back. She goes, "You never had them because they're sealed." So she said, "I can send you a packet that if you fill it out, it's going to take 6 months, but I'll give you whatever unidentifying information we have." I said, "So you want me to fill out a packet, wait 6 months to know how fat, tall, short, skinny?" I hung up the phone on her. I was so pissed off. And it was a StarTech, so it was good hanging up on people because you could just slam the flip phone,
Yeah.
It was awesome. So then she called me back, and I knew it was her because it was a 609 area code. And back then, you didn't have fake area codes like today. Like you
Mhm.
knew where somebody was calling from back then. And I answered the phone. It was her, and she said, "Where are you?" I said, "Work." She said, "Can you go somewhere quiet?" So right away, I thought that my birth mother was dead. That's just the first thought that came to my mind. So she says, "I don't know how to tell you this, but I never heard of an Egyptian being adopted before. It's the first one. I worked this my whole life since I was in college. So curiosity got me. I decided to go in your file for my own satisfaction. And your mother has been looking for you since 1986."
Wow.
I keep saying worst day of my life, but there was a lot of worse days. It was also a good day, but then I'm like, since 1986, she could be dead. Like your mind goes crazy in
You
that
don't know.
millisecond moment, right?
Yeah.
I said, "If she's dead," I said, "you are going to have my blood on your back." That's what I told this lady. And she said, "I already checked her social security number before I called you. She's not dead." I said, "Social security number? They have them in Egypt?" And she laughed and she said, I can't tell you anything else until you come down here with your driver's license. I need to know that I'm really talking to you. I said, well, it's Friday. It's almost 5 o'clock. I'm going to have to wait all weekend. And I'm not going to make it through the weekend unless you tell me, is her name Miriam Ayad? And she said, yes. Let me tell you something. My hair still stands up. I've been telling the story for so many years. So that whole weekend, I was like, I should have been in Ancora. I used to smoke. I was chain smoking, drinking scotch, and playing somewhere out there on repeat on my headphones, like a literally a psychopath, like who lost his mind,
Yeah.
completely lost his mind. So that whole weekend, I was calling all these politicians, leaving crazy voicemails, telling them how they suck and the state sucks and the government sucks and bureaucracy is at its worst. I mean, I just vented on everybody's voicemail. And then Monday, I get to Trenton. I'll never forget. I walk in that building. I go up a tall escalator. She knew I was coming, and she's standing there. And everybody has this crazy look. It was like a freaking Hallmark movie, looking at everybody's face, like you don't know what's coming. And she hands me this letter, and I open it up, and it says, "Dear my son," and I just lose it up there. I lose it. She's crying. The people I don't even know are crying. So finally, somebody else read the letter for me, and it said, "Dear my son, I want you to know why I left you with another family. I had no choice. My family shamed me. I'm sick. I hope you forgive me, and I hope I can find you before I die." She said, "I'll never get married. I'll never have another child, and I'll wait for you my entire life at 2554 JFK Boulevard, Jersey City," with the number. She never went back to Egypt. The orphanage lied to my family because I had the paperwork. They just lied. So I called my mother, and I said, "Mom, I found my birth mother. I'm coming to get you. We're going to go meet her." And she said, "I'm not going to Egypt." I said, "You don't have to. She's in Jersey City." She screamed, flew down the turnpike. I get to the house. And on the way, I called. And this little voice was like, "Hello?" And I'm like, "Is this Miriam Ayad?" She said, "Who's calling?" And I said, "Baby boy Ayad." And she hung up the phone. So now I'm pissed off. So I call back and she answers. I said, "Do not hang up on me. I was born July 27th, 1975. I've been looking for you my whole life." She said, "Can I please call you back in 5 minutes?" I said, "Yes." Come to find out, her brother was there. The uncle that made her give me up for adoption was still alive. So she called me back, and the first thing out of her mouth was, "How's your bones? How's your heart? How's your brain?" It's so funny, the question she was asking me. And I said, "I'm going to be there in 20 minutes. So she made the uncle leave, or my uncle leave. And I get there and I knock on the door with my mom with flowers, and the door opens. And I didn't know what to expect. And I just busted out laughing. It was this God's sense of humor. She's only like this, was this tall. So when she was 2, she had diphtheria and it stunted her growth. So her
Wow.
DNA was of normal height, but from
Yeah.
getting diphtheria, it stunted her growth. So that made me bust out laughing because I'm like, there ain't no way I came out of you. It's like Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's not happening. And anyway, we went inside and we were all, I don't know, scared, excited. The emotions are just not in my vocabulary for that day. And she gave me this box of like all this stuff that she brought from Egypt when she came, knowing that I was going to be taken from her, that she'd want to give me if she ever found me. It was like pictures of my grandparents, like this gold cross when she wore when she was little, like all this stuff. So she said to my mother, Miriam said to my mother, "I was so afraid for this day that you would reject me." And my mother said to Miriam, "Because of you, I had a son. And because of me, you know he's okay. And we'll always be sisters." So from that day on, they spoke on the phone every week. And we spent every holiday together. So I really wanted to find my birth father because emotionally and mentally, I didn't have a father growing up. He said he was sorry before he died, and I for sure forgave him, but it didn't replace my childhood. She didn't want to give me my father's name because she was pissed off at him for not coming here because he could have stopped the whole adoption thing, whatever. But, I didn't want to get in the middle of that because that's not my problem. I didn't cause the pregnancy. Clearly, I don't want to be involved in it. I just want to know his name.
Mm-hmm.
So she finally gives me his name. And through the years, I had met a handful of Egyptian people that I would tell them I'm Egyptian and I'm adopted. And adoption is a crime in Egypt, and it's a
Wow.
sin if you're Muslim. So every Egyptian I told the story to would say, "No, maybe you're Indian or Pakistani, but there's no adoption in Egypt."
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, there is this time." So I get Farouk's full name, my birth father, and this guy named Sharif Galel. He's head of the police department in Hurghada in Egypt. And I sent him an email and I said, I have my father's name and I know that he was from Shobra, which is outside of Cairo. I need you to go find him for me. And he wrote back, this is impossible, blah, 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 blah. Egypt is so overcrowded. You see a bus going down the street. There's people hanging out the door, hanging out
Yeah.
the emergency exit. It's bananas. It was only took him a couple days, and he sent me an email. I still have it, and he says, "I have good news." I forget his Arabic humor, but the long story short, he found my father, and he said that he pulled him off the street. Now, if you get pulled by a cop in Egypt, you crap your pants because they don't pull you over for frivolous stuff like around here. Like if you get pulled over, you did something major wrong. So he said he pulls him over. His face was beat red. He looked like he was gonna have a heart attack. And he said, "Do you know Miriam Ayad?" And he said, "Yes, she was a friend of mine from years ago." And he said, "Well, a little more than a friend because you have a kid in America." And he said he looked like he saw a ghost. So Sharif said, your son wants to come to Egypt and meet you. And he'll just say that he is a friend that you have that moved to America's son who wants to see the pyramids. So it won't ruin your marriage because virgins marry virgins over there. And,
Mm-hmm.
your kids can think it's just your friend's son from America. So he said, sure. And he gave Sharif a bunch of pictures. I went to Egypt and I hired a driver and an interpreter. And I told the interpreter, no matter what you do not say that I'm his son or he's my father. And I told him this real story. So, okay. We get to the apartment and we knock at the door. And first, it's his wife. And she hugs me so tight, like an old Italian family. I'm thinking to myself, boy, this is a really friendly family. Then my two brothers, Michael and Reagan, same thing. I'm like, this is weird. And then here comes my father. Well, I couldn't control my emotions. I'm crying. I hug him. He's hugging me. They all start crying. I'm like, this is just bananas. And the interpreter goes, your father told me to tell you. I said, yo, easy on the father. He goes, your father told me. He told them. They know you're his son. I couldn't believe it. So anyway, that happened. And then him and Miriam forgave each other. And I had a great relationship with my father. He passed in 2019 from a car accident. I got on the plane the second I got the call and I went right to the airport, got on the plane and they bury you right away over there. So even though I left the second I got the call to the JFK, they buried him before I got there. And then Miriam died in 21 from cancer. It's crazy. But it's nuts. I remember going to Egypt when my dad died and I just wanted to like vent and think. And I was at the pyramids by myself and I was so mad and pissed off at God. And I was like, this is insane. I waited my whole life and then this is how it ends. Like, this is horrible. Like, you're so cruel. And it was like out of nowhere. It was like, what do you mean? You waited so long for something you thought was unattainable, untangible. You were never going to get it. I gave it to you. You had 13 years of a guy who said, I love you every time you talked to him, called you on every holiday, every birthday, begged you to go visit as much as possible, treated you like a king, called your son a prince, and you're mad at me? And from that moment, I was just like, this was how the story was supposed to go. Wow. So that's how I wound up in New Jersey.
That is that's a very powerful story. I mean, words can't even describe how insane that is. How did all of this, like this tough upbringing that you had, how did this drive you to become who you are today?
Well, so I have an advantage because I grew up in the 80s. Life is different in the 80s. When I grew up, you went to McDonald's, they had a polo shirt, sometimes a tie, a fancy hat, and they treated you like you were at a Michelin star restaurant. When I grew up, you went on a plane, everybody waved goodbye to everybody that was taken off, and the flight attendants it was like going on a vacation. It was different when I grew up. It was, the world was different. The world is a brutal place today. I'm so glad I'm not growing up today. Like, I feel bad for our toddler because he's not going to know what it's like to grow up where people respect the guy in the McDonald's drive-through and they welcome you to that drive-through. Today, I mean, thank God I worry about my weight because I want to stay healthy because I don't want to deal with the miserable people in the drive-throughs.
Yeah.
If you're having a good day, go to McDonald's, Burger King, or Taco Bell, you'll instantly have a bad day. It's brutal. They dress like slobs, they act like slobs.
They don't care.
And they talk like they grew up in a third world country.
Yeah.
So, for me, growing up poor And now this is weird. I also believe that you are born certain ways. I'm not talking
Hmm.
about sexual preferences. I'm talking
Yeah.
about some people can sing and some people can't. Some
Hmm.
people have a gift to sing. They didn't put any effort to it. God bless them with a voice. Other people try to sing and you want to stick earplugs in your ear because they weren't born with the gift, you know? Um, I do believe that you're born with a gift of caring, being philanthropic, because my brother, who's passed away, who was 7 years older than me, also adopted, had the same life I had. He never could get out of it. He never wanted to find his birth family. He hated the world. He was a
Yeah.
hermit. He crawled in a shell. And it's a shame because he was a great guy. And he just, I hate to say bitter, not instead of better or better instead of bitter because it's such a cliche, but
Hmm.
he did choose to be bitter and not better. And it was sad. For me, growing up, I told you next to senior citizens, we lived on a little canal in Key Largo, and they were like double wide mobile homes. And my friends were manatees. When I was 5 years old, jumping off the back of our little double wide mobile home, and the manatees knew me. I was like Mowgli from the Jungle Book. And we had this elderly couple next to us, Jim and June Antel. And I remember June died, and I came home from school, and my mom told me, and I was so upset. But she told me I couldn't go over to see Jim; it was too soon. And I said, Mom, if everybody says it's too soon, no one's going to go visit Jim. She didn't know what to say, but I still wasn't allowed to go. So I snuck out and I went to Jim's door and I knocked on the door. And as soon as he saw me, he started to cry. And that's when I realized you can't be ordinary. If
Yeah.
everybody thinks it's too soon to go, no one's going to go. I knew that as a 5-year-old. And then when I take you to the Bobby and Heidi Millward, I told you it was the best feeling I ever had in my life.
Hmm.
So I just think that God made me that way. And I think that because of the way my brother's life turned out. And I think of it because there's not a day that goes by that we don't help somebody with cancer. And some days it's 30 and 40 in one day. Some days it's hundreds in one day. Like a couple weeks ago, we had hundreds of kids at the farm. And to get people to help and support, even though you have little kids that are dying and you have moms that are dying, you'd think that I'd be asking someone for a kidney. I'm asking you for your time,
Yeah.
your talent. Like we change the lives of these women and children every day,
Yeah.
and you would think people would want to jump right on board. It's like pulling teeth, worse than pulling teeth. And we do have a core of volunteers that are phenomenal. We couldn't do it without them. And there's a few restaurants that for sure are phenomenal. But like I shouldn't have to go to the same people every time, right?
Yeah.
This is our own. A lot of these kids, a lot of these moms and sisters and grandmoms and aunts, they're from our area. Mind you, we do serve the whole country, but not everybody's wired that way. And it's just, I'm a very practical, common sense kind of person.
Hmm.
Yellow and blue make green. You ain't changing it.
Yeah.
Certain people are givers, certain people are takers. Certain people care, certain people could care less. It's just the nature of the beast of humanity.
I'm still in awe. Like the original story you said, like it was like a movie I was
It's
able to play in my
crazy.
head. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy. What I got from that, there's so many things. Faith is like so big for you. So like I kind of want to talk about
For
that and
sure.
like how did that come about? Like did they raise you into that or did you just discover that? And like how did you have such strong faith throughout that whole
So
process?
people ask me this all the time. No, they did not. And when we lived in the Florida Keys, and I told you all my friends were senior citizens, at the end of Hammer Point, which is the development that we lived in, it's still there today, and so is the church. Across the street was a Methodist church called Burton Memorial United Methodist. And it was summer, and I was riding my bike because back then, talking about being different in the 80s, you were allowed to ride your bike and go across the street and go across the highway and go down the bike trails and not
Yeah.
worried about getting kidnapped or getting fentanyl. Like it was just different when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So I was riding my bike down Interstate US 1 because again, that was okay back then. And I seen all these kids in the parking lot, which I didn't know was a church. I was 5.
Yeah.
And I had came home and told my mom there was all these kids, and she said, "Well, that's a church. If you want to go, ride your bike." I said, "All right, cool." So I rode my bike and I went
Yeah.
and met all these more old ladies that took me in under their arms, and they were the best. When we moved to come to New Jersey, they cried like literally babies. Those old ladies cried, and I kept in touch with a lot of them till they passed away. Um, I remember having a very vivid dream when I was a kid that I just kind of knew God was real and I didn't even know who he was. I think that And I just think God chose me. I do. It's crazy. Um, you know, I bring God where places people can't, won't, or never have. So I played Jesus in a passion play for 25 years that would
Wow.
see 10,000 people a weekend, easy. And sometimes we would do 9 shows, and it was very authentic. It was like the Passion of Christ.
Hmm.
Very authentic. I would be done the show, and I would have bruises up and down my body and cuts because I we tried to make it as authentic. And you'd have thousands of people crying, and then thousands of people cheering for the resurrection. And once I became celebrity stylist and all this stuff, then casinos started bringing people to the church to see the play. They would bring buses. I used to say to the pastor, I used to say, Catholic churches bring their congregation to the casino to gamble. We got the church coming to see us play Jesus. I mean, the casino coming to see us play Jesus. It's nuts. And even like some Jewish friends of mine that live in Florida one year came up and surprised me, and they were like, how hard it was to be called a Jesus killer for 2 hours, So it literally brought God into a lot of people's lives. And even now, like when I speak at high schools and things like that, I just did Glassboro High School recently, and it was about bullying and not being anti-Semitic just because you want to follow some idiots on social media that have no clue what they're talking about. I'm able to share it, and I don't know, I just get away with it. So I do believe that God chose me, which doesn't make your life easier. It doesn't make you scathe the evil in the world or in people's hearts that are around you, but it doesn't matter because you know who's got your back in the end, and
Yeah.
you're still gonna have trials and tribulations just because you have a lot of faith in God and because He loves you. You
Yeah.
know,
If you could go back and give your teenage self advice, what would it be?
oh my Lord. Well, I would probably no, I would definitely tell him you have no clue what the future holds, so just wait.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I would have probably had more hair on my head today from all these things I wouldn't have stressed about, and I definitely wouldn't have bought all the cars that I've bought in my life. This is all a
Really?
waste of money. Yeah.
You don't think that the cars, because like a lot of people when they're starting a business or they're, chasing the flashy thing, does that feeling fade of when you buy like the Lamborghini or whatever
Sure,
car it is?
it does fade, and here's what happens. It fades. Well, so you can't win. I'll explain this to you. When I moved the salon from here to Washington Township, we only stayed here a year, and I outgrew it really quick.
Hmm.
When I was in Washington Township, there was a salon called Millennium Salon and Day Spa. It was the mecca of salons. They put like $3 million back then. You're talking 1999.
Wow.
It was right before 2000,
Yeah.
and that's why it was called Millennium because they were opening, the year of Millennium. $3 million. It was a thriving, unbelievable machine. Then up the street, there was another big salon. That name's drawing a blank. Well, anyway, these two used to make fun of me. My salon was across from the old Rosieris, and the the Millennium used to call it a circus show because
Really?
yeah. So I had this small salon next to a place called Yesterdogs. Today it's Don Franco's Pizza. It used to be Curves on the other side, which was a workout center for women, which is why I chose that place, right? I chose it because you have women coming in and out doing circuit
Hmm.
workout all day long, a different group of women. That's where I wanted to be. So millennium, and I had parrots back then. I had macaws, and I would put them outside on purchase. So when the kids would go into the hot dog place with their parents, they
Hmm.
would say, "Mom, can I look at the parrots?" And it was a whole methodical
Yeah.
of
There was
marketing.
reasoning.
There's no social media,
Hmm.
so who wouldn't put parrots out front next to a hot dog place? So when the kids come with their family, "Mom, can I see the parrots?" And Mom sees it's a salon, which leads to her walking in the front door. So whole thing was well thought out. But Millennium used to call me a circus act. Then I can't remember the one up the street. They used to say all kinds of crazy crap about me. Fast forward in life. Place up the street went out of business. They also had a place in Philly that went out of business. Millennium had an internal meltdown, and they had this, I mean, I tell you, that $6 million a year empire completely lost it. We were still standing. I say we, it was me. I didn't have any employees at the time.
Jeez.
So it's crazy. I was at that place, hired a few people. It was growing. It was growing. I sold that place because the guy who bought Millennium when it was going under wasn't a hairdresser. He bought it for his wife, I mean, his daughter, who was a hairdresser. And she decided she didn't want it anymore. Well, the employees were quitting. It was falling apart.
Yeah.
He was going to lose everything he spent it. So he calls me. I don't know him from Adam. I get this phone call and he says, "Listen, I bought the Millennium. It's not working out. You're the only person I can think of that would be able to turn it around. At the time, my rent was like $1,200, and now I'm going to be paying $5,000. This is crazy."
Jesus.
Yeah, he's like, "Listen, I'll give it to you for what I owe." I want to say it was like 140,000 or something like that. So I got it, turned it around, sold it to a doctor for 450,000. That's when I bought my first Lamborghini. It was a 25th anniversary Countach. That car
Nice.
is worth $1 million
Those
today.
are sweet.
When I bought
Yeah.
it, I got it for 95,000 with 2,000 miles on it.
Oh my
Wow.
God.
So the salons that were around started spreading a rumor that it was a kit car. He's trying to tell everybody he has a Lamborghini, but it's a
Oh,
kit
it's
car.
they were trying to say it's fake.
So when I say you could never win, you could never win. So after that, when I sold it, I wound up buying Giovanni and Pileggi, which was at the time the biggest name in the salon industry. I sold the car for like 115. I thought that was a nice little score,
Yeah.
only to find out 10 years later it was going to be
Yeah.
$1 million car.
Mhm.
But anyway, since then, I bought a number of Lamborghinis and sold them in Rolls Royce and all this crap. I wouldn't have done any of it. The problem is today, like I drive an Aston Martin.
Mhm.
If I don't even need a car. I walk to work every day because it's on the compound.
Yeah.
Everything's right there.
Yeah.
But it's just a shame that if I sold the car right away, rumors would be going around. Not that I could care less about rumors at this state of my life, but I worry about my employees, the
Mhm.
clients, my family. You sell that car right away. Oh, he must be doing bad. Oh, the new salon's not
Yeah.
doing well. People are brutal and they're
Yeah.
just so ignorant and dumb. If they took half the energy that they wasted on criticizing everybody's own life, the world would be a much better place. I
Yeah.
mean, think about what social media has done. Sure, does it help women find free hair replacement when they're going through cancer? Of course it does. Does it raise money for great causes? Sure it does. But it also opens up the gates of hell for all the trolls with no pictures of their face
Yeah,
that
and they're just
hide behind a keyboard and
Yep.
try to destroy people's lives when they're the problem.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Everybody always has an opinion, and like even with us, like we're all in on social media. We like to be bold with our marketing. Like
Sure.
we like to, let people know who we are. That's why we do the podcast. Like word starts to spread. There's always someone with something to say, no matter what.
When the township was giving us a hard time and Channel 6 came in to Johan did this two-part story morning and night. It was an amazing story. There was great coverage and they interviewed cancer patients. They did it on television while I was shaving their heads. And some idiot on Washington Township Talker, one of them said, "Oh, look at all the rings on his finger. I guess that's where the money from the charity goes." Now, I could care less what that loser has to say.
Yeah.
But the problem is, if some woman has a dying child with cancer, stumbles upon it,
Mhm.
she doesn't know the content of that comment or
Yeah.
anything, and it can really hurt somebody else from getting help. What I would like to say to that loser is when you worked 6 jobs and owned a salon before the pandemic, when you were on Home Shopping Network making $250,000 under a contract and doing Keratin Complex for $250,000 a contract and doing hair you wear extensions for $250,000 a contract, when you were doing 750 on a side job a year, then you could tell me what rings to put on my finger.
Yep.
But they
Exactly.
just think, oh, it's a hair salon. Listen, the hair salon is so that my employees can have a great job. We have facility to do our cancer patients. You're not making $1 million a year cutting hair.
Yeah.
You're making $1 million a year when you use your talent and you're using your boldness to motivate people.
Mhm.
That's how I got started. Listen, when Tabitha Salon Takeover came out, I had no clue what it was. One of my ex-employees from that old Millennium place, that she and I never got along. Her name was Michelle. She did nails, and we never got along. She had red hair. I'll never forget her. I get this random email when I bought Giovanni Pileggi from her saying that Bravo's looking for a charismatic salon owner. I think you'd be a great fit. So right away I think scam because she hates me. Why the hell would she tell me to, go to Bravo and sign up?
Yeah.
So I respond to the Bravo link. You know nothing about this show because it hadn't been out yet. Now, if you did it and you already seen season 1, then you're an idiot if you do it. But I had no clue. They made it sound like a home makeover for salons.
Mhm.
The worse your salon is, the more you're going to get.
Like
Okay?
kitchen nightmares
Yeah,
almost. Yeah, like
exactly. So who wouldn't do it? So I sign up for it. I fill everything out and I totally forget about it. And a year later, I get a call from Bravo. that they had filled all the spots, but somebody backed out and they want to come look at the salon. So I tell all my girls, and they're all like, no way, I'm not doing it. I'm like, all right, you don't have to do it. I'll do it myself. I'll tell them, don't film the girls. And then the day came, Tabitha came out, and she was brutal. But at that moment, I said, okay, I can use this to really market the crap out of us. We're going to be on Bravo, and then it's going to be reruns, and it's going to wind up going international. Like, this is what we have to do. So I made the show work for us. And Tabitha and I became great friends. Her mother passed away years later. I sang at her mother's funeral. We stayed friends. But we were one of the only ones out of all 8 seasons that got a second show because we wound up going on HSN, and we were her baby. We were her prodigy. So that is how I got on HSN, from being on Bravo. From being on Bravo is how I got the $250,000 Keratin Complex gig. And for the record, I didn't just walk in and go, yeah, Martino from Bravo, I won $250,000. No, I went to a hair show and I was walking by the stage, and the owner's daughter, hair shows have like 30 to 50,000 people from all over walking around. It's a complete zoo. It makes the car show look like wow. Like the car shows are dead these days. Hair shows are mobbed.
Wow.
So I'm walking, and the owner's daughter was on stage, and she goes, oh my God, you're the guy that kisses everybody on Bravo. Come on up here. So I go up on stage, and these hairdressers flock by the hundreds. They want pictures, they want autographs, because I became a celebrity in the hair world from this crazy reality show. So she gave me a ton of product, ton of free product. And then the next show that they were going to be at was at the Jacob Javits Center. So I said, you know what? Let me go up there and surprise them. So I go, and she's like, do you want to do some work on our booth? We can give you like $250 cash a day, plus we'll give you $500 in product. Well, I kept doing that until it became $250 a year. So in other words, I did it for free first to prove my worth, and to prove that I could draw a crowd, and to prove that if I believe in something and I like it, I can sell it. And that tenacity and that keep going forward is what landed $250,000. Now, when I would be on stage at that point and I would put on these big avant-garde shows, the whole entire convention center would come to our booth, to the point where the fire marshal would come and clear the hallways because it was unsafe at the convention center. That's how I got the next gig, because the owner of that company came over and said, listen, I've been seeing you on stage. Is there any way you can come talk to my girls and try to show them how to be more, charismatic and whatever? I'm thinking to myself, you can't teach someone how to be charismatic. But I just was a nice guy. I went over and tried to give them a pep talk, and it did help them a little bit. But then that turned into, do you think Keratin would mind if you were the face of both our brands, since we don't conflict with each other? I said, I'm going to tell them. And that's how I got Extension Company. HSN, I had emailed them for years and telling them that I wanted to be on television, selling hair products and whatever. And it just left on deaf ears because a bunch of idiots. But there was a brand which just sold for a multi-million-dollar deal. Sharon Osbourne's stylist was the brand face.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He was the brand face. He's a great hairdresser, but he's terrible on TV. So the CEO told Amika that we had something called Today's Special, where you're on for like 24 hours and it's live and it's exhausting and it's a lot of work, but you sell $1 million in 24 hours, So they told Amika that if you don't find another spokesperson, we're canceling your Today's Special. They're from Brooklyn. There is a guy in New Jersey who keeps reaching out. We'll give you his information. Maybe you could connect with him. I get an email from Amika, and they're like, when can you be in Brooklyn? We got your number from HSN for an upcoming Today's Special. I about died. I wrote them back. I'll be there whenever you want me there. They said tomorrow at 10 a.m. You got it. Hopped on the train, went to Brooklyn, walked in this sketchy warehouse. These guys from Israel were like, show me how you use this flat iron. I said, okay. So I tell them all the shits and giggles about this flat iron that I knew nothing about, but I have eyes and common sense. And I said, why it's great. And they're like, okay, we like it. We want to put you on HSN. And so that's how I started on HSN. And like 5 years into it, the CEO didn't like the people that ran the company, Amika, and they said, we love you. And if you don't make your own brand, you're going to lose this opportunity because we're getting rid of Amika. So that quick, I went and got an investor, started my own brand, and I was on there till the pandemic. And that was that.
Yeah.
So nothing came easy. Everything was a fight, is my point.
Yep.
So all these morons that are blind that say, "Oh, look at this," and "Oh, look at that," and "Oh, look at this," they have no clue that growing up, our electric was shut off, our cars are repossessed, that foreclosed, move a million times. They have no clue that I made $250,000 working for Carrington Complex, and then I
Mm-hmm.
made $250,000 working for the extension company. Then I had my own brand on HSN. They think I. What do they think? I charged $3,000 for a haircut?
Yeah.
They're out of their mind. They're nuts.
Yeah.
I worked hard. I gave hard, I worked hard, and I played hard.
Yeah.
So
Everything out there is for the taking, but you got to work for it. The money's already printed. The cars already exist. It's just you gotta. It's the only thing that's gonna drive you to success is yourself, and
yeah,
that's
and I think you just can't take no for an answer. Like we wanted to build this big property in Washington Township where we had the charity, we had the salon, we had everything in one. And these people came in droves for the first meeting, and they were kind of clever marketing people. The neighbors that were angry, they would say Martino. Martino, say no to Martino. And we wound up winning because we had a common sense reason why we should have it other than Martino. And we won. And then little by little, I became friends with all these people, because
yeah.
I'm very easy to forgive and let it go. I could care less.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them are really good friends and even volunteer at the property,
Wow.
which is amazing. The township still gives us a hard time, but, they'll come and go. And I've been there forever. These people have been there for nowhere near as long as I will be, and they won't be there as long as I'm there, so it all works out in the end. But yeah, I'm really fortunate that my wife understands and has accepted the vision and the challenge, because running a charity is very hard.
Mm-hmm.
She gets 100 some emails a day of women pouring out their story that they're diagnosed with cancer and they're
Mm-hmm.
devastated and they have a baby, or they have their husband just died, and the craziest stuff. It's like a lot of weight to carry and bear. She handles the ones that are too far to come to us. And then my son takes care of the petting zoo. It's funny when somebody walks into the salon, which is you haven't seen it, right?
No, I haven't been
Yeah, you
inside.
definitely need to take a look at it.
Yeah, I would love to.
It's people walk in and their jaws just hit the
Yeah,
floor.
we'll take you up on that
Yeah,
offer.
you
Yeah,
got to
for
see it
sure.
because it's crazy. But the first thing out of their mouth is like, "This is insane. This is like a winery without the wine. This is this. This is that." And then they'll say, "Who takes care of everything?" And I'm like, "You're looking at it. And my kid takes care of the animals. My wife takes care of this. I do that."
I love it.
They just think that we just hire this massive crew and we sit back and eat
Mhm.
bonbons. They're stupid.
I think something I want to touch on too, because like all these people are coming at you for certain things, and I think it's because you draw a lot of attention to yourself, like
Sure.
the flashy cars, the chains, and everything like that. Is that something that you just personally love to do?
For sure.
Because that,
Yeah, my family was very conservative. There's pictures of me 10 years old with a gold chain and a black, like, I don't know, like parachute kind of material vest with random colors like Miami Vice with the zipper halfway down. It's
Nice.
just, I was born that way. Like
Yeah.
my parents are so conservative, and you'll see pictures on the internet or social media, a flight at 8 a.m. and I will put every piece of jewelry I have on and the craziest outfit, because walking through the airport, you have no idea how many people will stop you and say, "Are you in a band?" Or "How do I know you?" And then you wind up meeting people that literally change the trajectory of your life. I
Yeah.
have met investors. I have met oncologists that helps create immunotherapy, celebrities, you name it. Because listen, when I would do motivational speaking at hair shows, I would say there's two types of hairdressers. There's pigeons and eagles. What are you? Are you a pigeon? What do? They shit everywhere. They have no purpose in this life, and they just go. Brrr, brrr, brrr. So I want you to think of that sound when you're lazy, when you're sitting in the break room not doing anything,
Mhm.
when you say, "Can I leave early?" When you say, "Why did you put a new client in my book?" When you step over a dirty towel on the floor instead of pick it up,
Yeah.
those are pigeons. So washing hair, complaining about your boyfriend to the girl sitting next to you. Like, he knows I have my period. Why is he being such a jerk? Those are pigeons. What does an eagle do? Soars higher, doesn't quit, never says no, faces the storm head on. So, what are you? Are you a pigeon? Are you an eagle? And that still resonates with people because people once in a while will reach out to me on social media and say, this happened in their life and, thanks for letting me be an eagle because it got me through it. Like those things sit with you. Like you said,
Mhm.
you heard the story how many years ago and it sits with you. So, I just, people ask you all the time, what would you do if you could change, your past and what you've been through? I wouldn't change it. If you asked
Yeah.
me when I was little, I probably would have. But today, looking back, there's no way, and it's like, I'm fortunate because my son, who's 25, is, super helpful. My wife is super helpful. And, now we have a 17-month-old and he's already helpful. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Nice.
yeah.
I think another thing I want to talk about too is like all of this stuff happened. Like your life has been such a crazy story. Um, Moving forward, like, are you going to teach your kids new lessons based off of how you were raised? Is there something that you predominantly want to make sure that you do for them so they don't have to go through the struggles that you went through,
For
or do you want to
sure.
teach them some of them?
Yeah, no, of course I want them to learn from the mistakes that I made. It happened the other day. Like my son was dealing with something because he has his own business and I shared with him a story that happened to me with a partner. And, I got fortunate because my lawyer was smarter than his, but he tried, a guy that I trusted, tried taking advantage of me and being dishonest and
Hmm.
almost lost everything over it. But my lawyer had a really good chess move and it worked. But, the stress of that is can kill you, so I had that talk with him about how to protect yourself from people that you think, of course, they would never do anything wrong.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, I definitely don't want them to make the same mistakes I made. They're going to make their own. So if I can help them not to make the ones I made, whether they listen or not, I was told not to do things and didn't listen. Wish I did.
So like your your whole branding of your salon and everything is super luxury. Like I know you like the gold and all of that stuff. How did you kind of like when were you like I'm gonna go all in on the branding of this thing? Like you said, like your new salon, it looks like a winery in there without the wine. How did you kind of like formulate that and make that to what it is? Because I'm sure it happened over time.
Sure. So, you've heard this saying, greatness is contagious. If you're around it, you'll catch it.
Hmm.
Um, I just don't know how anyone, no matter what your business is, how you can expect to draw greatness if you're not great yourself. Like I have massive CEOs that come down from New York to get their hair done. Forbes
Wow.
magazine, most powerful women in the world, coming down from New York City to get their hair done in frickin' Sewell, New Jersey. Now, if you think with all the salons in New York City that they're schlepping down from New York, from the Hamptons, from Brooklyn, Staten Island, and even
Yeah.
Millbrook, 3.5 hours
Yeah.
away, they're coming down to Hickstown, New Jersey, Sewell, New Jersey, and they're walking in and they're taking pictures and they're sending to their friends going, look at this place, look at this gem in South Jersey. That's why. And also for the clients that live around here, I want them to feel like they can go to some place that's like beyond high end. And that's why we were named top 20 in the country from
Yeah.
Salon Today without getting gouged. Like that's one of the things, like the CEOs and stuff that come in, or some of the housewives that come down, they'll be like, that's all you charge? I'm like, we're in Sewell, New Jersey. What do you want from me? It looks like you're spending $1,000 on your haircut, but
Yeah.
you're not. You got baby grand pianos, you got chandeliers, it's all glass, opens all the way up,
Wow.
skylights that open automatically for the temperature, plus the grounds. No matter where you look, you're seeing something that's just fabulous. You look out the one side, there's a 37,000-pound marble fountain from Italy. Then you look out the front, you got the animals, and you have more statues and just landscaping alone. You feel like you're at Longwood Gardens, and it's in Sewell, New Jersey. People that are not from around are called Sewer, New Jersey. It's brutal.
Have you ever thought about like taking that kind of vibe that you portray and like taking that to another industry or expanding ever?
Not personally. I would do it to help somebody. I
Okay.
would do it to like mentor somebody,
Yeah.
but I just don't have the energy or the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like right now, my biggest present mission is to just get the township off my back,
Hmm.
and be able to enjoy what we've built and then see what the future holds. But right now, thank God for the new mayor and the new council president. They've been really helpful, but we still have the crooked and illegal people breaking our stones.
I feel
So
like, yeah, I feel like that's always good. You're always gonna have someone,
they're always
trying to come at your
I
neck.
mean, listen, there was a little boy in Washington Township who committed suicide recently. I don't know if
Yeah,
you
that
guys
was a
heard about it,
shame. Yeah.
right? So my son says to me that they have a GoFundMe for $5,000. So I said to him, you can't do a funeral for $5,000.
Yeah.
I said, why don't you reach out to them through the GoFundMe and see? I knew nothing about the situation, the family, the age. I knew nothing. So my son reached out and they reached back that they would like help. So my idea was I know a lot of funeral homes, and there's one that I know in Williamstown for Nelly that for sure would do this for free.
Hmm.
Then I knew a florist that I know for sure Abbott's would do it for free. I knew restaurants that I knew would do the food for free, like Lamberti's or Pomodoro, one of them. So that's what I thought. And I knew I could, if he was being cremated, I could get him an urn. If they needed a plot, I have a couple that I inherited that I could donate. That's in my brain. So then I get on the phone with the aunt. The aunt reaches out and says, I'd like to talk to your dad. I happen to be outside. And she said something to the effect, well, first I found out he committed suicide because he was bullied and he was only 10.
Yeah.
So that struck a nerve with me.
Yeah.
So and they said they didn't want it in a funeral home. They wanted it somewhere else. And I was outside. We have this beautiful pathway from the parking lot down to the animals. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, we just have the funeral here. This is crazy. I said,
Yeah.
can you FaceTime me real quick? And I FaceTimed her and I'm showing her the parking lot, the new building, 7 acres of sod, all this beautiful stuff. And I said, would you like to have it here? She started to cry. She showed it to her brother, the father, and the mom, and they immediately agreed they wanted it there. So um, everybody came forward like I thought. They donated the urn. He was cremated the exact color they wanted, the food, the flowers, and we had this beautiful funeral at the property. I'm not going to say the name, but somebody literally said, did you get a permit?
Oh,
And I thought to myself, you insignificant moron. You are just a complete moron, and I'm not going to even give it another thought. And of course, nobody came at me with fines or anything because
yeah.
they would just look dumber than they already
Yeah.
look, But that's what that property does. We had every year we do Chop's Best Day Ever. I just got the video back 2 days ago. These kids come, and some of the kids like haven't been out of the hospital in over a year. Kid born with his stomach outside of his body, kid fighting cancer since
Yeah.
he's 2 and he's only 7, and hundreds of kids come. We open the whole property. So I get a lifeguard for our pool. We have volunteers to bring the animals out. We have
Hmm.
face painting, big full size hot air balloon, in the front
Yeah.
yard. And I just don't understand how you can hate love so much that you you can't join a mission to help kids that are less fortunate. You really hate life that much.
Yeah.
You're that miserable in your own life that bothers you. Because if that bothers you, you A, need to go see Dr. Phil, B, need to go on medication,
Yeah.
or C, you need to pray. And I'm going to go with D, all of the above.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And talking about like the giving aspect, like you give so much, you love to see like the unfortunate, like you like to help them out in any way. So you talked about the first one where you tried to raise 5,000 and
Mhm.
you ended up doing 22.
Mm-hmm.
Was that like the feeling behind that? Was that like, okay, I have to do this more? Is that how
For
Wigs
sure.
Wishes like was that founded and everything off of that?
Yeah, so that feeling is euphoric, and even like every day when I shave someone's head and they number one can't believe it's free, number two can't believe how real it looks, number three can't believe that this whole property that we just open it up to everybody just to make them feel good. It changes their life, it changes their cancer journey. It is a phenomenal feeling. It's a phenomenal feeling, but not everybody gets it. It
Yeah.
is what it is. I can't make somebody like chocolate versus vanilla. I don't think you have the control either. You know what you like and what you don't like. You don't tell
Yeah.
yourself today, I'm not going to like chocolate anymore. I'm going to like vanilla. There's just certain traits, in you that, but back to your question. Yeah, it's extraordinary, especially like so we do an Easter egg hunt every year, thousands of kids,
Yeah.
free Easter egg hunt, um, it's just it's remarkable. And then Christmas we do a live nativity one night, and then we have a long carport that's connected to the house that leads to the double doors, and it's covered. and the kids line up for as far as your eye can see, and we open up our foyer and do it almost like Santa's workshop. So the Santa who has a real beard, he's like legit Santa. I met him because I did a wig for his wife. She had
Yeah.
cancer, and he's like a famous Santa. Like he goes all over the country, and he's a part of the Santa Club and all that crap, you know.
Yeah.
But every year for us, he does it, and it's him and his wife and the kids. You should just see the magic. Like I walk around dressed like, I don't know, Liberace and Elvis had a baby with Michael Jackson. Like I wear this wild outfit, and in my pockets I have like literally pounds in all my pockets of gold glitter. So when the nobody's looking, I just grab a handful out of my pack and just throw it. So these little kids are like sitting on Santa's lap, and the glitter starts falling. It's just such an awe for them, and even the parents. Like, it's you can't feel bad or you can't be angry. I just wish those moments could last longer.
Yeah.
Because I give you an example. I went to Israel April 26th. Clearly, I'm not Jewish. So Arabic by DNA, Christian by faith, and America by birth, right?
Yeah.
So I go to Israel to volunteer for the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force,
Mhm.
because I'm sick and tired of all these people hating Jews and then they worship a Jewish God. Like, if that's not the dumbest thing you ever heard in your life, you hate Jews, but you have a Blessed Mother statue on your front porch.
Yeah.
She was a Jew. She was a Jew. So I said, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I'm going to go. And let me tell you, it was scary. There was bombs going off.
Wow.
There it was. We were right on the front line. We went into Gaza the one day. I was with the military, and when I was there, since we're talking about that real quick, it's not like the media shows you at all. Both sides are wrong. The left and the right, none of them tell you the truth about Israel and what's going on right now. I witnessed
Yeah.
it with my own eyes. It's insane. And in Israel, you have Muslim, Palestinian, Arabs living in Israel. You have Christians. You have obviously Jews, and you have Druze, which is its own religion and its own sect of people. All of those are fighting Hamas and terror. It's not
Really?
Israel against Palestine. It's
Yeah.
people against terror. So I just wanted to get that out. So I'm volunteering over there and I'm feeding thousands of people, thousands of soldiers. I'm cutting hair for them too on the army base and the military base and the
Wow.
Navy base. Then I'm loading machine guns and I'm loading F-16s and I'm helping fix army tank tracks. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm like watching other
That's
people.
sweet.
It was insane.
Yeah.
Black Hawks. I was in places where I couldn't have my phone because it was like top secret.
Holy
It
shit.
was insane. And I was working like 17, 18-hour days. And when they found that I wasn't Jewish, it really meant a lot to them. Like, I can't believe
Mhm.
it. We thought all Americans hated Jews. I said, yeah, that's what the
That's what the
narrative of
media
the media,
says.
but the
Yeah.
media is the worst. So, but anyway, I felt so good, like sharing Christ, connecting people, serving others. I really felt good. I come home from Israel and I have a little bit of PTSD from the bombs going off. And like
Mhm.
my wife would drop a fork and I would jump. So that Monday that I came home on Sunday, Monday, I peeled myself out of bed in the late afternoon. I was jet lagged and I'm like, let me go cut the grass. I cut the grass. It looks good. And I kind of just had my beats on, listening to like music that was trying to like decompress from this crazy. I mean, I seen pictures and videos of mutilated kids and
Yeah.
women and rape victims from October 7th. I just had to like find a way to shake it. Everything looked great and it kind of helped me unwind. And the next day, these idiots in township came out and gave us a violation for our grass being too long and it was cut the day before. So I took a video, 15-second video of my whole front lawn. Looks like a golf course. And I posted on Facebook. I said, this is what we just got fined for today. And I brought that up because when I say I wish it could last forever, you do something good and you feel good. And then some human that's just doesn't get life will
Yeah.
screw it up. And that's like the biggest challenge is not letting humans steal your joy, you know?
Yeah. Definitely. What is the one thing that you think people misunderstand you about?
How hard I've worked in life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how hard I still work.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because, somebody posts something and you'll have a million people say incredible stuff. He helped my mother 10 years ago, or he did a wig for my daughter when she was 5 and now she's in college, or you're all this stuff. And then you have the people behind the the keyboard and behind the
Keyboard warriors.
you
Yep.
know, you'll have all these trolls and say he's has a sketchy background, or yeah, you know, I'm sure the charity pays. Again, they always talk about the charity paying for my jewelry. You know, all these just stupid stuff. And it's just so funny. Like, we will get a million emails in a month, and they're all incredible, and you get two
Mhm.
that are crazy. You get a ton of thank you cards in a month, and then you'll get a couple like not signed nasty letters. It's just
Yeah.
hysterical how the human race is, you know. And but when you read the like I don't respond anymore. But like, if a client sees something and it upsets her because she's been coming to me for 30 years, so she knows me in and out, and she'll text me, "Do you believe, who is this person?" And I'll say, "I have no idea. They need Jesus. I have no clue. Like, I
Yeah.
don't care anymore." You know, because they don't even know what they're talking about. You know, like, somebody the other day wrote on Township Talk, he only does the charity because he gets farm assessed for the animals. He does the charity because he doesn't have to pay taxes in Washington Township. Well, that person is dumber than the dirt on the sole of your feet, because August 1st, they raised my taxes $24,000. So I went to 54. I'm paying $54,000.
My
They
God.
won't give me farm assessment because they're crooked and illegal. They won't give me a discount for nonprofit status. I have a 501(c)(3) for 15 years. They won't give to me just because they say they won't. They're crooked and illegal. So
Yeah.
for the moron that says he does it for a tax break, I'll make a deal. You pay my taxes and I'll pay yours, because that's how stupid you are.
Yeah.
People just talk to talk, they bitch to bitch, and they have nothing to back it up at all. You know, on a lighter note, like, a woman will come into me, and 99.9% of the time, when I know what drugs they're on, I can tell them the day their hair is going to start to fall out, so that we can shave it and do the wig before, so they
Yeah.
don't wake up in the morning to go pee or get a glass of water and hair's on the pillow, because that is the
Yeah.
worst day of the entire journey for
I
a
couldn't
woman with
imagine
cancer.
that. Yeah.
So we try to get to them before that happens. In some cases, they don't hear about us until they already lost their hair. But these women will come in and I'll tell them what they need to do. And, "Oh no, my oncologist said I can't shave it. My oncologist said I have to let it fall out. My oncologist said I can't color it. I can't brush it. I can't wash it." So one day I got so tired of hearing my oncologist said this and my oncologist said that. The head of Penn Oncology is on my board, Dr. Patricia Ford. One day I texted her and I said, "Can you tell me medically and scientifically why women are always told they can't color, they can't brush, they can't wash, they can't this, they can't that?" And she wrote back, "LOL, all a wives' tale." So I screenshot it. So now when they come in, I go, "Look, it's just a wives' tale. Like, you know, let them heal you because that's their job. You know, let
Yeah.
them fix you with medicine. Let me keep you looking like you don't have cancer because that's my job, you know?" But
Yeah.
people just say stuff without backing it up.
I feel like that's social media because it's even like on Twitter, like people who, combat each other with politics and all this stuff. Everybody's just talking with, like you said, with no profile picture. You don't even know
It's
who they are.
horrible. Look at
It's insane.
look at what's going on in Gaza. You got a kid with multiple dystrophy. You got a kid with cancer. They are posting these children and saying they're being starved because of Israel. And then the truth comes out that one has multiple dystrophy and one had cancer. Like,
Yeah.
you are that demonic that you're going to pawn a kid who's truly sick. That's just it's just I can't wrap my head around any of it.
Yeah.
So like there's like so much we're talking about here. Like it's like I'm like overwhelmed with how much it's all great topics. But I know there's one story of a girl, her name was Kiki, that you
Yes.
had helped. And I know she meant a lot to you and she was one of the big things. I didn't know if you were willing
Sure.
to talk about her a little bit more.
Yeah. Kiki's one of the stories where I realized that not everybody wants to make a difference in the world. You know, you would think so. First of all, we didn't, Wigs and Wishes was not Wigs and Wishes until Kiki. It was just Friends Are by Your Side, which was just for women with hair loss from chemotherapy. Then Kiki came to us because her mother was so upset that nobody would help her with hair replacement, because there's one other nonprofit. Actually, there's two other nonprofits in our country that do hair replacement for kids. One of them, the wigs look so bad they could look like they came from Party City for like a Halloween costume. The other one is a fraud. you have to submit your own tax returns, both parents, and then they determine if you make enough to get a free wig. Could you imagine sending your tax returns to a
Jeez.
nonprofit? You can look it up online. I'll tell you the name of it after. I don't want them suing me, but it's true. You can look it up online. Then here's the other thing. She was diagnosed with Wilms tumor, which is a kidney cancer, when she was 3. There's a nonprofit that like painted her room pink and put tulle and fairy lights when she was 3. That was her wish. Now she's 11 and she's dying. Well, all the other nonprofits out there are one wish per kid per lifetime. So now, if she was 11 instead of 3 when she got it, she would have said, I want to go to Disney or I want to go meet Justin Bieber or whatever but she was 3. Now it's back. Who cares if this one charity did it when she's 3? She's 11 and she's going to die.
Yeah.
And you have the nerve to say no when you have 7-figure paid CEOs?
Yeah.
So this is the story we found out because the mom wrote a letter to one of the freeholders in New Jersey. They reached out to our office and said, we have this little girl. I had never did a kid wig before. In fact, that day is actually on my YouTube channel. We filmed that day because I didn't know what to expect or anything. And so she came in, and the shirt she wore when she came in, her mother gave me when she passed away. It's hanging in front of my office at the new place. And she was bald. She said she was tired of doctors at CHOP saying, do we have a girl or a boy today? Imagine being talked to like that when you're 11 years old, or she might have been 10 at the time. So, fortunately, one of the wigs, because she was a little swollen from the prednisone, it actually fit her. I could make an adult wig fit her. And I put pink hair extensions in it. She was like Times Square, lit up, happy as could be.
Yeah.
So, I asked her if there was anything else she wanted, and she said she wanted to meet Justin Bieber. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I'm thinking in my head. I was like, couldn't it be Disney? Like, it's so easy to do, you know? So I started posting it, Justin meet Kiki, things like that. And Justin's fan club eventually got behind it, and it trended on Twitter for 3 days.
Wow.
And we were just posting and posting and posting, and we took her to like Times Square. My son and her were the same age at the time, she's going a long time. And we took her to like M&M World, Ripley's Believe It or Not, American Girl Doll. Like
Mm-hmm.
we just did everything with this kid. So we get a hold of Scooter, and Karma's a bitch because you see where Scooter's at in life today. He refused to grant the wish for Kiki. So I'm gonna say it's on my YouTube. Might have been in September. I get a call from a guy in New York who had a black Amex, and he said he has 2 front row seats to Justin Bieber at the Prudential Center on November 4th.
Wow.
And then he says, I'll sell them to you for $5,500. So I wanted to tell him to go pound, whatever, I can't say it, but I wanted to tell him. And then I thought to myself, the story of the guy drowning in the ocean, and the Coast Guard comes, he says, no, God's going to save me. And then a helicopter comes with a ladder. He says, no, God's going to save me. And then a family comes with their kids, and he says, no, God's going to save me. And he dies. He drowns. And he says, God, I thought you said you were going to save me because I sent you the Coast Guard, the helicopter, the boat. What the hell did you want from me? So I had a choice to tell this guy to go pound sand, or this is the only thing that's come so far. I'm going to have to bite it. He can deal with that with God himself and buy these tickets. And that's
Yeah.
what we did. We bought the tickets, and we took her, and she had a time of her life. And we got back to my house. Her mom was picking her up, and she called me Martini because when she would text me on her iPhone, it changes Martino to Martini for spell check. So she would call. She's like, Martini, my back hurts. And I said, well, you sat on my shoulders the entire show. It's one of my profile pictures on Facebook for hours, screaming like a chimpanzee. I'm like, no wonder your back hurts. So that was Sunday night. Mom takes her to CHOP on Monday, and they said that she had fluid in her lungs. Tuesday, they drained the fluid. Wednesday, the fluid came back. By Thursday, they were talking palliative care, which is just a fancy word for hospice. Sunday, she died. It was a week to the day that I took her to meet Justin Bieber. Her mom called me in the afternoon and said, you need to get here right away. They lived in Williamstown. Thank God they lived in Williamstown. I was on the Black Horse bike. I turned around. I hightailed it to her house, and I got there, and I said, Kiki, I love you. And I want to say within 45 seconds, she took her last breath.
Jeez.
That's when we changed the charity to Wigs and Wishes. And this is so crazy. When she died, I had called 911. When the undertaker came, he came in the house. They rented a very small house in Williamstown. The Undertaker came in with a gurney on wheels and a maroon bag with a zipper and was literally going to put this little girl in that maroon bag with a zipper in front of her mother. And I threw him out of the house and I carried her outside and I said, don't ever do that again. Years later, I'm talking over a decade later, this guy comes up to me at a restaurant and says, do you remember me? I said, I'm sorry, I don't. I see a lot of people. It was The Undertaker. And he said, I never did it again. And it always sat with me. And I gave him a hug. Crazy, right? So that's what
Yes.
started Wigs and Wishes. And since then, there was a little girl named Desi, who was 6, and we got Taylor Swift to FaceTime her literally an hour before she died. I've taken probably 40 kids to Shaquille O'Neal's house to play basketball. A lot of them have passed away. A lot of them also have beat it. Adam Sandler was a fun wish. A little girl wanted to meet him, and he agreed to let us on the set of Grown Ups 2. Spent the whole day with him, played tennis with him, basketball. He was wonderful. So, look, you can only be a vessel. The people find you, you find them that need help. You know what their wish is. You can take it to the people that have the power to do the wish. And, a lot of them say no. I'll tell you one that I'm not afraid to say the names. We had a kid at Washington Township High School. She's had over 400 brain surgeries. Her head is so scarred and so many shunts, and sometimes she's in the hospital for a month at a time. There's only one surgeon in California that will even agree to open her brain up because of all the stuff that she's had done. And this is years ago, and she wanted to go on the Ellen show, not as a naughty, like a guest. She wanted to just be in the audience and watch the show because when
Yeah.
she would be in the hospital, I don't like Ellen DeGenerate. I don't call her degenerate, I call her degenerate, but this kid did, and she just wanted to sit in the audience because when she'd be in the hospital, she would dance, and she liked her for some reason. I think she's gross, but so I start doing the same thing I did with Justin Bieber. Only this time I get a hold of Andy Lassner. Remember Karma with Scooter? Karma with Andy Lassner. So Andy Lassner was the executive producer for the Ellen DeGenerate show.
Mm.
And he totally went on Twitter after he told me no. I said, we'll pay for the airfare. We'll pay for the hotel. You let random people come in as a studio audience anyway. What's the difference if you do it for a kid who's had 300 and some 400 brain surgeries?
Yeah.
Right after he tells me no, this idiot went on Twitter and said, what I love the most about my job is disappointing the masses. I still have the
Jesus
screenshot. So
Christ.
now, yeah, exactly. So I go on Facebook and I put what he did and I showed the screenshot that I just talked to him on the phone, and I just called the high school. I'm like, you need to tell your guidance department, tell these kids they need to rally together. Like, we were this close, and this producer, just he's an asshole. He's just an
Yeah,
asshole.
that's
And they did. The high school, man, they ripped them apart on every social media platform. And I finally got a text message from Andy Lassner saying, call the dogs off and we'll send her a swag bag signed by Ellen. So at that point, again, it's not what I wanted, but
yeah.
okay. So they sent like beats, boxer shorts, a couple books, and she signed everything with a Sharpie. But here's a woman who's supposed to spread kindness, right? Be kind. Wasn't that her, whatever. Um, and she wasn't kind, and it took her down, you know?
Yeah.
So you just, again, you can bring it to the people, you can do everything, you can fight hard, but at the end of the day, if they don't want to do it, unless God, tears down the walls, is not
Yep.
happening.
Yeah, I can't even describe like in words how impactful that story is. Like the stuff you were saying with like the taking kids to Shaquille O'Neal's house to play basketball and like the FaceTime with Taylor Swift. That stuff is insane to me.
6 years old,
It's
Desi,
I
and they're all crazy how it happened. Like, it's
yeah.
not like I have a Rolodex of all these people. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
let me call Shaq today. It's not. It's like divine appointments and people that walk into your life at the craziest place, and you're like, oh my gosh, you could. This is how me and Paula became friends, from a random conversation that I had with somebody in Florida, and then now we're like best friends. She's the baby's godmother, and
Yeah.
she's has her own little guest room in our house, like, and she was in our wedding, and like just all this stuff. So it's just God opens doors that you never think are going to open. And everybody thinks that not everybody, but the haters will think that I will sit back and just go through my contacts in my phone and say, oh, let me call Taylor Swift's mom today, or let me call this one. No, none of it works that way. It's always some way that happens so crazy that you have to say it was God or it wouldn't have happened. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like the Taylor Swift,
It's
I'll tell you, a friend of mine owns one of the largest salon furniture companies in the world.
mhm.
And the day that we got the request for Desi for Taylor Swift, and I put it out to everybody, and we did, she had like 24 to 48 hours to live. And the guy who owns the company calls me and he goes, he's from Georgia. He goes, bro, you ain't gonna believe this. I said, believe what? He goes, Taylor Swift's mom bought a massage bed this morning off our website. I said, are you serious? He goes, I sure am. I said, well, you have to call. He goes, I can't do that. It's a HIPAA violation. I said, then you shouldn't have picked up the phone to call me. Call or send an email. Send an email. I'm going to text you the number for Desi's family. Send an email and say it's urgent. Like the kid's not going to be here more than 48 hours, if
Yeah.
that. And sure enough, that night they called at 5:30. They FaceTimed, and they were FaceTimed for a long time. And it was
Yeah.
only like 40 minutes or so after that call ended that she passed away. But my point is, how did it happen?
God,
Because
it has to be.
come on, what's
Yeah,
the chance that Taylor
that's a
Swift's
crazy
mom buys a
coincidence.
thing? And what's the chance that he saw it? It's such a big company.
Yeah.
Like most of the celebrities I work with use aliases when they buy stuff.
Yeah.
They don't use their real name. So all the stories have a great way that they happened and a very unique way that it was orchestrated. So I just never know which way the twist in the kaleidoscope is going to turn and what it's going to come out like.
It always works out though, I
It
guess.
I feel like
does.
Yeah.
it's the faith too, but it's also you. Like you drive so hard when something's put in front of you,
Yeah.
you will
I
not
do drive.
stop.
I don't.
You
You're
will not
right.
stop. So
You're
I think
right.
I like obviously faith is definitely a big factor, but it's also who you are. It's
Thanks. I appreciate
who
it.
made you. So like that's what I like to look at. It's like how can somebody obtain this lifestyle? How can and it's not like things fall into place. Yes, I think everything happens for a reason, but it's also your drive too. Like you form this lifestyle because you put your trust in faith and you whenever there was a decision to be made, you made that decision and you went headfirst into it. So
Yeah, I definitely don't sit around and wait for heaven to open up and just pour something in my lap.
yeah.
That's for sure. I mean, if he says knock, well, I use a sledgehammer when I knock.
Yeah. I
That is
love that.
yeah, for
How do
sure.
how do you keep just like how do you keep pushing on and getting what you want? Because everybody sees like the big compound and like the Rolex watches and the Aston Martin Lamborghinis, but when you were starting out, like how do you just keep like going towards what you want?
I mean, listen, I think growing up poor had a lot to do with it. I never
Yeah.
wanted to be that. But I will tell you, it's not like it gets easier. Don't ever let anybody tell you, I don't care how big they are, I don't care how big their company is, I don't care. If they make it sound like, I worked hard, now I'm here and I just keep growing,
Yeah.
they're lying to you because you will always have calamity. You will
Mhm.
always have things that are unconscionable that happen, and you will always have these things. How you choose to galvanize the situation is what makes it different. But when people act like I mean, because I have friends that are successful, that's their rise to the top motivation. That you worked hard, we got here, and now we're reaping the benefits.
Yeah.
Listen, you may work hard, you may reap the benefits, but there are always roadblocks that are going to come that you
Yep.
can't see past, and you have to fight. Even though, look, somebody once told me you can say, "What if," or "even if," right?
I like that.
What if this? What
Yeah.
if that? What if this? What if that? Or even if. It's the placebo effect.
Yeah.
When you say even if it's all right, it's gonna be fine. You know.
Speaking of quotes, there's another quote that I've seen a lot. It's you don't know how to give, you know how to live.
Yeah,
So
if you don't know how to give,
if you
you
don't
don't
know
know
how to
how
give,
to live. Yeah, you can't. I mean, you'll die a miserable person.
yeah.
There's no question about it. It's one of those things where what goes up comes down. Yellow and blue make green. There's just facts and laws in life. And, that is one of them for sure. And even you don't even have to, you can be an atheist. You could be agnostic. And when you give, it still comes back because it's just a law of gravity.
So
What do you want your legacy to be?
I want my legacy to be that you just make a difference in the world by loving people that need it. You know, um, Dr. Judge Caprio, the judge that just
Yeah, I
passed
just
away.
saw that he passed
yeah.
away. It's a shame.
Yeah, so I cut his hair at his son. His son has a big, beautiful mansion in Rhode Island, and I cut his hair there. Paula was with me during COVID, And he and I really hit it off, and we
Hmm.
became friends. And we talked a few times a year ever since until he passed away. But the one time I was visiting him, he had said, "Hey Martino," that Boston accent. I'm
Yeah.
not good at that, so I'll just say, "Hey Martino." But he says, "Why don't you come to the courtroom with Paula? I would like you to watch in the chambers. We have monitors, and you can see Caught in Providence, the show." So me and Paula had been filming the night before, and we were like, "Oh, should we go? Whatever." And I'm like, "Hey, we can't say no to the judge. Let's just go." We go, and judge knew my adoption story for a while.
Hmm.
So we're in the chambers, and this guy comes in with all these parking tickets, and he's homeless. And the judges, I forget how many tickets he had, 100 and some tickets or something.
Jeez.
And he just told the judge, he goes, "I'm adopted and I'm homeless." And he goes, "You're adopted?" He goes, "Excuse me a minute. Can you bring Martino out here?" And that my wife just posted it. It was from a long time ago, but I wound up helping us find his birth father. He lived in Maryland. I connected them, and obviously Judge let him off and threw all his fines out. But you know, I thought of him because you said, "What do you want your legacy to be?" His legacy for sure is to be kind. His
Yeah.
family's posting it every day since he passed, and I posted pictures of him and I. He was so funny and so gentle. There's a picture I just posted of him wearing this big medallion. We were having a
Yeah.
barbecue at his family's house, and he's like, "Hey, Martino, can I wear the medallion?" I'm like, "Sure, yes, Your Honor, you can wear it." So just being kind, and you know, I think letting people know, which I've done, and I'll keep doing, about my faith, and that, man makes religion so difficult, God makes it easy. I always refer to
Yeah.
the thief on the cross, "Lord, remember me," and that saved him. It wasn't your sacraments, you're this, you're that. It wasn't, because you ask the average person, how do you know you're going to heaven? I never killed anybody. Um, you know, I didn't cheat on my wife. Well, if that's all it takes, then there was no reason for a savior.
Yeah.
Christianity is the only religion that sets everybody else apart. The rest of them, it's all your works.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I don't want to base on my works.
It's funny. Do you
Yeah.
do you have any more questions before we
So
wrap it up?
I think what I'll ask is we have a question we ask everybody at the very end.
Sure.
So we own an AI company, so we like to ask, what is your opinion on AI? Do you think it is a good or a bad thing for the future moving forward, and do you use it in any of your day-to-day tasks?
Sure. I think AI is going to be like social media. It has its great, amazing values and features. And I also think eventually it's going to be really brutal if it hasn't already in
Yeah.
some ways. Yes, I do use it. I will use Chat GPT to do like an email or a social media post if I want to just, because they'll take the time and put the emojis in for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want to, ain't nobody got time for that,
Yeah.
Um, and then my most recent AI platform that I love is called Songer. And it's incredible. It is unbelievable. You literally can go on for like $5 and say, I have a hair salon. It was named top 20 in the country. We do
Mm-hmm.
free wigs and wishes from children battling cancer. Make it upbeat, make it catchy, like people want to dance. In 60 seconds, you have a full blown song that you own the copyright to. And Facebook is so verklempt because I post it and it'll say still searching for copyright, still searching for, and after a while, they
Wow.
finally realize there's no copyright. It is unbelievable.
Yeah,
Now, the
that's
music
insane.
industry hates it. They're bashing it.
Yeah.
You're taking it away from real artists. Well, guess what? AI is taken away from a lot of real things. It
Mm-hmm.
is what it is. It's the future of, um, yeah. So I think I need to wait 5 years and see where it's at, because there's a lot of AI platforms that are horrible.
Yeah.
You pay for it, you're stuck, and then you cancel it, but you're still out the $30 for the $20. But this Songer, it's unbelievable.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good story.
New platforms come out every single day.
Yep.
Like
It's
new
always
releases.
changing. Always changing.
It's like such a rapid thing with
Yeah.
AI too.
Well, AI can never put a wig on a cancer patient,
Of
and it
course.
cannot cut hair, so
Yep.
I'm safe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course. I love that. But thank you, Martino.
Thank you for having
It was great having you on, and your story is very powerful, obviously. So us allowing you to spread that to the world means a lot to us.
Thank
so,
you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you
this
so
was
much. We
You're
really
very
appreciate
welcome.
it.
Wish
This
you
has
guys
been
the best.
this has been Martino Cartier, and thank you for tuning in.